Alright YouTube, in this video we are going to see how to create tree view structure in JavaScript. On the left side it's the front end, on the right side it's the backend design. You can see if you wish to close, you can close and start from scratch. We will be doing the HTML, we will be doing the CSS, and we will be doing the JavaScript over here in this tutorial. You can see there are two parents. Let me create one more parent, and you can see if the first parent has some child, two child, so we need two child. Let me enter 2. You can see now this child has grandchild, total 5 grandchild. Let me create 5 grandchild for this, and again the grandchild has great grandchild, the third grandchild has great grandchild, and you can see this can be created with the help of JavaScript. And this is the back end. On the left side it's the front end. Fine. Now to follow with me, I'll leave the source code in the description, and this is the 27th JavaScript project. For the first step we'll focus on the front end design, and on the second step I will focus on the back end design. Fine, this is the input text. You can edit it as well, and if you wish to close the whole node, it can be closable. Fine. Now let's work on the front end. For that, in the zip file you will be having HTML, CSS and JavaScript file. So let's start from scratch. I have simply used Bootstrap. That's the reason why we are getting two columns. So let me screenshot it. We are going to modify the file. I have made a screenshot of it. Simply it's in the row. We are going to start from scratch. So I'm deleting everything. So the HTML structure, we are going to create the HTML. So the HTML structure is the first element, a first unordered list have two parents. So let's create a UL, and inside that I'm going to give a ID. We are going to use two section. Both of them will have unordered list. So to specify each of them, I'll give the ID front end and back end. So this is for the front end. So let's create the parent. We have two parent. For now we create the first parent. There was a caret symbol, and let me create with the class caret. Fine. Now inside the li we have an list item, unordered list. We have two childs, direct child. Let's create an unordered list. We have two child, so two list item is required. Name it child, and again, and if you see we need the caret symbol over here, so let me create it. And again the child has a grandchild. We have 5 of them, so let me create the 5 grandchild. And in the third grandchild there is a caret class, so let me add a span with class caret. And the grandchild has two great grandchild. Let me copy paste it. So this is the final. So this is how it looks in the HTML. So we are going to create the CSS. So let me remove all the CSS and start from scratch. We have given the ID to specify it, so it's simply the UL. Now let me remove the list style on every unordered list inside the parent unordered list. You can see this list style has gone. And now let's add a caret. We'll use the hex code, or you can say the HTML code on the pseudo element before. So we have to pass the HTML entity, which is 2, 5, B and 8, followed by the backward slash. It's B6, not B5. Fine. Now the next thing, let's add the border to the UL. So let's add a second parent. I forgot that. You can see I have misplaced it. It is the first child of the first unordered list. So second child of the first unordered list. Now let's create the line using the border, which we will be applying to the every unordered list which is inside the unordered list. 1 pixel solid and black. And now with the help of pseudo element, we are going to create the horizontal line on the list item. So we would be using the position absolute. To use the position absolute, we require the container to have position relative. That's what I did. Position. So if you style over here, it will be a little confusing. So let me get into the Chrome inspector and style over there so that you can see the changes what we are doing. So it's a pseudo element. We're going to give the top and left. It will be only visible when we give width and height along with the background color. Temporarily we remove it. Let me add the height and width. The height would be 1 pixel. Fine. Now you can see it's visible. Let me adjust the top and left attribute, or you can say property of the CSS. You can see I have added the height 1 pixel, which is equal to the border which we have given on the unordered list. Fine. Now it's clearly visible. So this is our requirement. And finally we have to remove the list style for the very first unordered list. No, we keep it because in our requirement it was there. So we'll leave it. Now you can see the caret symbol is little rotated when I click on it. So for that we are going to add the transform property, which will rotate it 90°. We don't need the content over here because we would be adding 2 classes on click on the span. So if I click it, already there is a class called caret, and if I click it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to append the caret-down along with the caret. I'm not going to replace it, I'm going to add it. So if you replace, it is not going to work. Simply we are going to add it. So let me check if we replace it's working or not. Let me remove all the script and start from scratch. for let me create a backup so that in case if we stuck somewhere we can see it for the reference. Now as I said, we are going to simply add the caret down to the class. So if you it won't work, we have to make it. You can see if I add, it is getting pointed downwards. Now let me remove it and use a JavaScript to add it. Let's see where we have reached in these steps. So we have to apply nested class to all the unordered list which is nested inside the list item. Please notice that is a spelling mistake for the class which I have made, and let me create two classes. The nested class will simply make a display none, and the active class will have a display block. So with the help of JavaScript I would be adding active class to it. On page load it is display none, so with the help of JavaScript I'll add the class active. Fine, now we have completed this. Now let's get all the caret class in the JavaScript. With the help of get elements by class name we'll get the node list. So if I show you how does it looks, the node list, you'll get the list of node. When you can see HTML collections, it's not node list, it's HTML collection. Now what we need is we are going to apply for loop to every caret. Why we are applying for loop? It is because if we apply for loop, each of them will get a each of them can get access. You can see now we can access individually with the help of for loop. Now since we can individually access them, I'm going to add a click listener to it. So by clicking, what is going to happen is I'm simply going to add a class caret-down. So by this keyword you can get where we are currently clicking. Now this keyword will not say where we are currently clicking. This keyword will simply give you the current class, which so the current class is simply the class caret. So to the class caret, to the current class caret which I have already clicked, I want to add a class called caret down. So you can see if I click it, it is getting added. You can see now if I click, it is getting added. The final one is not working. Let me see why. So before that, let me add a CSS to it. So we are going to use a function called toggle, not add. If we use toggle, you can switch the caret down up and down. That means you can add, you can remove. On first click it will add, on second click it will remove. So you can see if I click the same thing, it is getting added and removed. The final one is not working. Let me see why. I guess I have not closed the span tag, so let me close it. I have missed some of the tag open. That's the reason why this is behaving this way. Let me see. So before that, as I said, let me make all the class name corrected. Now if we choose a particular list item and this will simply refer to the span tag, and the span tag's parent is list item, which is what we'll see right now. You can see the list item is the parent of the span. Now it's the parent. So what we're going to do is, with the help of list item, we're going to call the class nested. With the help of list item, we're going to call the class nested by query selector. List item is a parent, so inside the list item we are going to find the class nested. And what we are going to do, we are going to add a class which is active. For the first time I'm just showing with that we have to make it toggle, because to switch back and forth we need to add toggle. Why toggle? For the first click it will add, for the second click it will remove. Fine, I guess the front end is ready. Now let's work on the back end. So the backend is 70% JavaScript and 20% CSS, whereas the front end was 70% CSS and 20% JavaScript. Now let's get into the button. Before that, we are going to append all the list item inside a container which has the ID backend. So this list item will contain one input field, one button, and again another button which will have the close. Which will simply remove the list item. Fine, this is a design, so let me create same design. Let me create a CSS for the close button. I'm going to give the background color as red. I'm going to give the text color as white, and I'm going to modify the padding also over here. I can easily make the bootstrap classes. I don't want to use bootstrap and my class together, so let me use my custom class rather than using bootstrap. If I add bootstrap, there would be more classes which will be little difficult to understand for you. So for that reason I'm not using bootstrap class. Fine, now let me make it cursor pointer. So when I hover it, I want the cursor to change to pointer, which we have already done for the caret class also. Let me use a font also icon in place of text, and let me give a class called create-child. Fine, now this is the HTML we have created, but we have to make it dynamic. For the front end there's a parent, so let me make it parent over here. So when I click on it, I want this list item to get dynamically created inside the unordered list with ID packet. So let's get into the JavaScript. Let's call this button ID. button with id created parent. To call it, document.getElement by id will allow you to fetch the button with id, and will store this element into a variable. And this variable, with the help of this variable, we are going to add listener to it. So when I click on it, I want a certain operation to perform. So that operation will simply create the list item dynamically. So we have done the listener. We are going to create the listener, click listener to the button. So when I click on it, I want a function to get triggered, and that function will append the code to the container. So for that, let me get the container in the JavaScript. I have specified it with id. Now we have got the container which is in the backend variable. With the help of inner HTML, I'm going to append the dynamic HTML. Copy the whole section and paste it. It's not double quotes, it's backticks. Now you can see, if you wish to add, you can add as number as you like. So let me remove the static design, and that's done. Now we are going to add functionality to this close button. So for that, since this button is dynamically created, it's not in the HTML when page loads, we have to call the parent and add a click listener to it. This is called event delegation. This is a 27th project. We have been doing this from first project. Now we are going to get where we have clicked on the container with the help of e.target. So if I click on the container, e.target will let you know where you have clicked. So if I click on list item, it is giving list item. If I click on button, it is giving button. If I click on input, it is giving the input. So I'm going to pass a condition. If e.target has a class which is equal to my class created, which is close it. If it is true, if the condition satisfies, then give true, or else make it false. If I click on close button, you can see it is returning true. So that means this is working. If it is true, then it is simple. I'm going to call the parent. So you can see the span is inside the list item. We'll get the span with the help of e.target, and this span is inside the list item. Get the parent list item using the parent element, and let me store it into a variable called list item. And simply I want this list item to get removed using the function remove. List item is a variable dot remove. So once you click on the button, close button, its parent will get removed, and that's done. Now let's get into the newly created button. So this is also dynamically created. Directly adding listener to this button won't work. The same way what we have done for the close, we're going to do it for the button which we have dynamically created. We are going to match whether we have clicked on this class. If we have clicked on the class, let me alert you that you have clicked on a class. If you click, and that is working even after dynamically appending with the help of event delegation. So the font awesome is preventing it from clicking the button, so you have to make pointer event as none. Now you can see it is properly hiding. Now add listener to the newly created button. So if e.target matches, get the parent. We have the same way what we have done. We are going to do it over here. Let me rename it, and I'm going to get the parent. Here the parent is simply again the list item, so we can copy and paste it over here. Now we get the list item. We are going to append a unordered list. We are simply appending the unordered list, but we don't know how many list item would be there inside. So for that, what I'll do is I'll get the reply from the user. I'm appending it with the help of inner HTML on the list item. I'm passing it inside backticks. It's not it's not single quotes, it's backticks, which will allow you to write multiple line of HTML on a single. Fine. Now let me append something. So if I click on it, I will get the hello message. Fine, that's working. So what we have to do is we are going to dynamically append the list item, but rather than just adding the list item, what we need is we are going to get the number of child from the from the user. So for that, I'm going to call a dialog box that is prompt, and whatever value we enter inside the prompt, it will be stored inside the variable count. So let me alert the count also. So if you click, you can see it is asking how many row you want, and it is giving the number also. And since we can get the count of child using the variable count, I'm going to run a for loop. This for loop will run till the number of count has reached. Inside the for loop, what we are going to do is if I enter 2, I want 2 list item to get appended. So let's create a string, and this string will simply hold the code for the list item to dynamically append. So this is the code. We are going to dynamically append it. We don't need any HTML, it's simply the string. We just have to append it. Let me change the text value, input text value. Let me change the button class name. We have appended it. Now what we have to do is, let me console and show you whether the count which we have passed on the prompt message is getting converted to the number of list item with the help of console. So if I type 1, I should get only 1 list item. If I type 2, I should get 2 list item. We are getting 3, it is because the index has started from 0. If I give 1, it is getting 2, it is because we have to make it 1. Now if you add 1, you'll get only 1 list item, and this list item is in the X, so I'm going to append the X inside the unordered list. You can see you have to remove the space, it is taking it as a string. Fine, that is working. Now let's get into the grandchild. The same process. We have to match if the class is simply, I'll show you right now. Let me arrange it. The same section we will be using twice now. So if the class is simply this, then the same way get the message from the user and dynamically convert it into, 1 number of list item. Convert it into 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 num and display it inside the and append it inside the list item. Fine. Now this is for the grandchild. Grandchild would work. 5 grandchild is there. Let me create 5. Let me enter 5. So there will be 5 grandchild. So that's working. Now let's work on the great grandchild. The same way, it is also getting dynamically appended. So for that we have to call the container gave the listener, and with the help of e.target we are finding whether we have clicked on the particular class. Once we have clicked on the particular class, I'm asking from the user how many rows you want, and accordingly I'm displaying it inside the I'm appending it inside the list item. So let me create a row so that we can see side by side, divided by column 4 and column 8. So the first first column will have the front end, and the second column will have the back end. This is just for the design purpose. So let me place the button on the top, and I'm going to text align its center so that it doesn't disturb the design of the front end and the back end design. So if you see, there are 2 parents. Let me create 2 parent, and inside the parent we have 2 child. So let me create the 2 child, and inside child we have 5 subchild, which is grandchild. Inside grandchild we have 2 great grandchild on the third grandchild. Now you can see it is also closable. And that's all for this video. Thank you so much for listening. So this is a 27 JavaScript project, and there we need to add some styles. We will copy the same list item style which we have done for the front end. Let me do it for the back end also. You can see now there is no list style disk design, and that's working absolutely fine.